What is going on, Nathan?
I can hear you.
That's a good thing. So, y'all, just real quick before we get started, if Nathan just randomly disappears, it's because he's been having computer issues. He's joining from his phone, and he's been having audio issues with his phone. So, if he disappears, it's because he quit being able to hear us.
Right.
And I had my camera pointed down to try and not cover all my face up, but then you can see the wires in the corner right there. Anyway, so how you been doing?
Good. Good.
Good, yeah. We have a very special guest tonight. Tanya Bugbee is our guest. She was, and I got to brag on her, y'all. Like, she was my very first client with Hit Productions. I've been training her how to live stream. She starts a live stream show called What's Your Story 1 week from tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific. I will be her very first guest, so I'm really excited about that. Hey, Holly. Yep, your favorite show with your favorite guys right here.
And Nathan.
So I'm super excited about that. And what?
I said,
Her favorite
Nathan.
guy and Nathan. Right. So I've got to know Tanya over the past month and a half or so, couple months, and just an amazing person. She has an amazing story. You know, if you've seen any of her posts, she shared about some of the crazy stuff she did when she was a kid, like selling around the world, or right out of high school, selling around the world and doing all that. But her father was also in prison when she was growing up. And I hadn't heard any of the story, so I'll be hearing it for the first time tonight with all of y'all. And I'm going to bring Tanya out. Hey, Tanya.
Hey. Hi, everybody.
How are you doing?
This is so exciting.
I know, right?
I feel like I'm on Oprah.
It's not quite that. I'm not giving away cars or money or whatever.
I tried.
I was here for the
Well,
truck.
I asked April earlier for a car, so you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Let's see. We got Shannon is in the house. Mackenzie's in the house. Holly said Nate's on the shit list lately. You're at home right there, though, aren't you?
Huh?
You're at home on the shit list, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't bother you. So thanks for being here, Tanya. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. Is this the first time you've ever been a guest on a live stream? You were a guest on Katie's, right?
Not yet, no.
Not yet.
You are my first.
All right, good. So you get to be my guest as your first, and I get to be your guest as your first time hosting.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
It is very cool. Yeah. I'm looking forward to
it. I am too. It's going to be fun. Real quick, before we get started, let's plug the show real quick. Kind of tell everybody like what the premise of the show is and what you're looking for in guests and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm hoping it evolves because this is my first. So it's called What's Your Story? And I want to have fun. That's the biggest thing, is just to have fun and share a story or multiple stories on, you know, what was what impacted your life growing up or recently. You know, I don't want it to be a real downer, like, you know, what's the crappy stories we have. But if someone wants to share one, absolutely. But, you know, our life is all about stories. And then at the end, I hope the guest will share what the next chapter will look like. You know, what's the next chapter we want to write that we haven't written yet.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah.
I love those kind of things. Like, I like hearing, I mean, that's part of what this show is about too, is just hearing people's stories and either how they've overcome the struggles or still facing the struggles, or, you know, and like you said, what's the next chapter? So I love stuff like that because I like hearing.
Yeah, it's just like what we're talking about tonight. You know, it's a huge part of my growing. I mean, it was all of my, that wasn't all my growing up. Obviously, I went to school and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I danced. But, you know, growing up with my dad was a big part of who I am today.
Yeah. So how old were you when your dad got locked up?
I was 13 and a half. My mom and dad divorced when I was 8. Didn't see him until I was 10. And then when he came back, so I don't know if he was in jail during that time or what. Nobody talks about it. To this day, it is not talked about.
Really?
No, really. I have to share a funny story because we just had my granddaughter's first birthday over the weekend, and we had about 15 family members celebrating their birthday, and I brought it up. and my mom shut it down. Yep, immediately. Like, we're not going to go there tonight at this party. He was one of the biggest drug dealers in Northern California. So so when he came back from 10 to 13, my brother and I would go visit him every other weekend. So we helped him do drug runs, and he'd hide drugs in my brother's pants because he was only 5 and the cops didn't look for drugs in a 5-year-old.
Right.
And kind of lived that lifestyle. And it was
That
not a
sounds
whole lot of good in there.
Yeah, no, not a whole lot of good, and I don't mean to make light of it, but that's a Netflix based on a true story series.
Right,
is what that is.
Exactly. Yeah. And unfortunately, halfway through that part, well, all of it's unfortunate, but halfway through that, he got addicted to heroin, and from that was his downfall. But when I look back, as an adult, it really wasn't his downfall. It's what probably saved him. Going to jail, getting straight, all that kind of, getting clean. So he got arrested when I was about 13 and a half. I was in just went into high school. And I remember the principal calling me in because it was all over the papers.
Yeah.
And talking to me about it, wanting to know how I was doing. Did I need anything? So it was a big deal right from the day he got arrested.
Yeah. If he was that big of a drug dealer, then I imagine it was a pretty high profile, plastered everywhere. Can't escape from it. Everybody knows kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, they've been trying to catch him for a long time. He was just really good at hiding and paying off a lot of cops.
Yeah. Did you catch any shit as, going into high school with your dad getting arrested like that and being as big time as he was? Did you catch any shit or get any flack from anybody, or were they how was that just being in school?
Well, okay. So my school, I graduated with a class of 35 girls. So I went to a college prep with nuns. And so, a lot of my friends couldn't invite me over to their home.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I wasn't the profile of a college prep high school student.
Right.
Knowing what balloons were and how they hide them in the oven, that probably wasn't what they wanted their daughters to learn. Yeah. So I mean, it was more unspoken. I knew who would invite me. Like my best friend, her in high school, we were so close, and so I knew who was there for me and who was there because my dad would sell him drugs or give him alcohol before he got caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up in a house or growing up with a dad that was a drug dealer? I mean, obviously you knew what was going on. How did that? I mean, you turned out okay.
Well, it turned me off to all that stuff. Like in high school, my friends are getting high or going to parties. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But my brother did the exact opposite.
Okay.
I mean, he barely graduated without getting into jail, and my mom marched him right into the Navy the day he barely graduated high school, barely passed.
Yeah.
And marched him right into the Navy. And that saved him. He's a phenomenal human, teaches high school, takes underprivileged kids to places, that again, Netflix movie kind of thing. But if it wasn't for my mom getting him into the Navy, I don't know what would have happened. Yeah. And I did the exact opposite. I was just a prude about that stuff.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah. 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 It wasn't that I didn't experiment, but
right.
I had goals. I wanted to be president of the United States when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Then you got a full ride to Georgetown, and then I hopped on a sailboat.
Yeah, tell us, real quick. I know you did a post on it, but to me, that's one of the most fascinating things. It sounds like something I would absolutely love to do. So this is a little off topic of the show, but tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I don't even know if it's off topic. I think I needed to escape.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So the pressure of, my dad was in jail for 3 years. So he was out my senior year, or just a little bit of my senior year. And just to go visit him, to get patted down, searched, I was really loyal to my dad.
Yeah.
And so I went and visited him often. I'd call him from home when I knew he could pick up the phone, or the phone would get to him somehow. I don't know how that happened, but he helped me with my algebra homework.
Really?
Yep.
Over the phone.
Over the phone.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And my mom didn't know any of this, or if she did, I mean, they were, like I said, they've been divorced. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
And I'll share some of when he got first arrested, but so childhood wasn't really all that normal and all that great, and a lot of secrets. And so I met this guy 10 years older than me, about halfway through my senior year. He was a pilot. He had a sailboat, and we just got on a plane, went to Australia, got on his brother's 72-foot sailboat, sailed Australia until it became of age. Because I was 17 and he was 10 years older. So until I was 18, I didn't come back to the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, but I did. All through high school, my whole trajectory was political science, Georgetown, become a lawyer, become president. That was my goal. And then I got on a sailboat and sailed till I was 26-ish. And then I learned how to fly a plane during that time. And then we ran a flight school and I taught kids how to fly.
Really?
Yep.
That is badass for real, man. That really is. Like, that just sounds...
And that's a whole nother story, because I was 26, pretty good looking at the time, being 26, blonde in Maine. It was a good old boys club. And there wasn't a male pilot instructor that wanted me to learn how to fly a plane. And you want to talk about the Me Too movement, not here, but I went through 3 flight instructors until one wouldn't put his hand on my lap when I was flying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your brother's here on Facebook.
Hey, Clark. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I kind of got off topic. Oh, I guess you asked me about sailing. I think that whole part was just going to go have fun.
Yeah.
And not having all the pressure of all the stuff that was going on.
Yeah. I could even now, like if you told me right now that I could leave and go spend the next couple of years on a sailboat, I think I would probably do it.
Yep.
Just because
I would too.
It's just, that is just badass. I mean, I love the saltwater anyway, and I love the ocean, love to fish. Yeah. I've never been sailing, but I think it would be just a blast to take off and go do that.
Yeah. There was the only thing there was no negative, other than obviously I went to college, in my 30s, breastfeeding babies, they didn't do it the quote normal way.
Right.
I was so super hard on my mom. I'm sure I gave her a lot of gray hair during that time.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously you were at least half-ass okay if you were learning to fly and running a flight school and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like you were just a straight up beach bum the whole time. And even if you were like in your 20s, like
I know. We do life backwards. We need to have fun when we're younger.
I know.
Right now my knees hurt, Picking up my granddaughter all day, my back hurts. It's like, no, I want to, so
yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So is your dad out now?
No, he died during COVID.
He died. Okay.
He died.
Okay,
he was, I don't know his exact date, but he was almost 80, 78, 80, 81, something like that. He died, 2020, 2021. Yeah.
But he had been out for a while though.
Oh yeah, like I said, my senior year in high school, and he really turned his life around.
You said that.
Really turned his life around. He got clean. He was, working at an audiovisual department at the community college in Marin County, and then he ended up running the whole department and retiring, and like I say, I think being arrested was what needed to have happened.
Yeah, it's needed to what needed to happen to me too, because I was out there. Pretty far left I wasn't really selling drugs. I was selling enough I wasn't selling drugs. Every once in a while I was selling enough to pay for what I was doing, but not really.
Yeah.
Just all the way strung out. So getting arrested was definitely a godsend for me. Mm-hmm. But just hearing what your dad went through and then turning his life around is kind of also like, it would have been cool to interview him. Like he would have been a cool guest on the show.
Well, my brother's around. You can interview him too sometime, because he probably has a little different perspective.
Yeah, that's true. You ought to, Clark. Yeah. If I don't know, did he ever? He didn't ever go to jail. He went to the Navy.
Yep.
But he would have a different perspective. Yeah, that
Yeah,
might be
he
cool
would.
to have
And
him
then I
on.
have a sister who never hung out with very rarely hung out with my dad. So she has a totally different perspective with all of that. My brother
Okay.
and I were there all the time. My sister kind of hung out with my mom.
Okay. Is she younger than you?
No, I'm the oldest, then my sister, then my brother.
Okay.
And Clark says he's down.
I see that. Is he
Yeah.
on LinkedIn? Clark, are you on LinkedIn? It'll take it a minute. There's a delay on that. So you ask a question, it'll be a minute later before
Yeah.
somebody answers, and you have to remember what they were answering.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd like to have your brother on too, just to hear his
Yep.
his side of it.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
cool.
He says, yeah. Yeah. Cool.
I'll find him.
Yeah, what was
whenever
it like for your dad when he first came out, trying to rebuild and trying to go straight and trying to
Yeah.
do the right thing and get his life back together what was that like for him?
That's a tough question for me to answer because, being at the time probably 16-ish, I was probably more into myself than into what my dad was going through. But I do know that I was there a lot, taking him, like when he was getting, methadone treatments and stuff like that. I'd go with him sometimes. I know he had I'm sure he had to check in, with a parole officer or something. Again, I guess I wish I could give you more details. I think I was at that point.
Because you were on a boat.
Well, I was getting on a boat.
Getting on a
pretty
boat,
quickly. Yeah. And focusing on graduating and doing all that kind of stuff. But I'd see him, he'd still help me with my algebra homework or whatever I was doing.
Right.
I worried a lot about him. I think that's one of the things I remember the most is, especially when he, prior to going to jail, he'd have heroin or something, and then he'd smoke, and then he'd, just pass out, and with the cigarette still lit. And so I'd have to go take it, put it out. So I always worried about him a lot. Like, he'd burn his apartment down or something.
Yeah.
Right towards the end there, when he was out and he seemed to be pretty okay, I think again, leaving on a sailboat was a way of not having to keep doing that for six years.
Right.
I want to say I was 10 until I was 17. That was just a long time to worry.
Yeah.
For a kid.
I bet it was.
Yeah. Yeah. And my brother was even younger. I know he was 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's 5 years younger than me.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
What, so not to like try and date you or anything or try to make you tell your age, but what year did he get out? Because I'm just trying to get on my mind. Okay. So, okay.
I graduated 79.
Okay.
My age is my age.
Okay.
I know you and I were going back and forth on a post about who was older.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, put your cards on the table, and you wouldn't.
I'll be 42 in 2 months.
Yeah, see, I'm 60.
Okay.
I beat you.
Yeah, you do. I wasn't born until 80, so I have no clue what really society was like back then. I don't imagine it was any easier though on a felon coming out than it is now. There might be more programs and stuff now than there was back then. I don't know, but
well, he must have been in a program. I wish I knew the name, and if Clark knows the name, I'm sure he can share it. But that's how he got into the college, was through a program.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to be clean, be tested all the time to make sure he was clean, so that he could keep going into the college to work. Yeah, but I don't know the name.
Yeah. Did he have to have a college degree to be able to go work in the college? Like, was what he was doing?
Well, I know my dad was in the Navy.
Okay.
Yeah. Truthfully, again, Clark, if you want to chime in, I don't know if he graduated college or not.
I mean, not that it matters. He obviously got
young.
Yeah, I mean, he got a good job. He did not. He said
he did not. Yeah, yeah. So my mom married when she was 18, and my dad was about 20, and they started having babies. Yeah.
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 That's still pretty cool though that he got out and did good, went to work, got a good job, and stayed clean for the rest
Yep.
of his life,
Yep.
and lived to be a pretty good age.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think COVID, COVID probably did, he had COVID during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and had a stroke during COVID. So the
Okay.
two of them, he just couldn't, he dropped out of Berkeley. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's where we used to go. My mom would drop us off at Berkeley in his condo or apartment in Berkeley
Okay.
when we were little. But this couldn't, his body, I mean, he had so much, a lot of abuse to his body with all of
Right.
that, so
Right.
having a stroke and COVID during COVID, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What I know I kind of asked you this earlier, I think, but and my mind is like shot today. I am absolutely shot. So if I repeat myself, I'm sorry.
Okay, me too. It's been a long day.
Yeah, like I told you last week or whenever it was we did our last session, I was like, I've just been brain fried in the evenings here lately.
Yeah.
Was there any kind of like, I mean, I know it had to be tough for you with your dad being gone. Was there any kind of like that you can think of or remember any, like, not to just stay on the negative, but any kind of negative effect that it had on you? I mean, obviously you said, it kind of turned you off from that whole lifestyle, which was a good thing. But was there any kind of negative ramifications other than just, the emotional strain of your dad not being there?
Well, I don't want to, the emotional ramifications of growing up in that environment, it wasn't always safe. So before my dad got addicted, he'd kept us safe. Like if there was a guy that would come in and buy drugs and looked at me as a 13-year-old and looked at me sideways, my dad was 6'3", he'd put him down, big guy.
Mm-hmm.
But once he got addicted, he couldn't keep me safe anymore.
Mm.
So it didn't happen. I mean, just a couple times, but they were just times where it's like dad couldn't keep me safe. Yeah. And so I stopped visiting as often, but I still went. Like I said, my brother and I are super loyal to visiting him.
Yeah.
Even though it was not the safest environment to be in.
Yeah.
So it just not cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I bet that probably had a lot to do with him straightening up when he got out. Was that y'all stayed there through all the shit, through the addiction, through him being incarcerated. And I would imagine, I mean, obviously I wasn't there and am not your dad, so I don't know, but I would imagine that had an effect on him while he was inside.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I got caught. I was doing all this crazy stuff and putting them in all this danger. Because, once you sober up, you start thinking about that kind of stuff. When you're sitting there in prison with nothing else to do but think, all that stuff finally starts seeping in most of the time. I bet it went a long ways towards him getting his life right when he got out.
Yeah. And, we didn't really talk about it much until I was in my mid-20s. And so I was in therapy for a year because of all that had gone on. And then I remember we were at, I think, Denny's, his favorite restaurant. And we finally, for the first time, actually talked about it. Like, literally, it's not a comfortable subject in my family. No. And when he was arrested, I found out my stepfather had dropped me off at his apartment. And then there was tape all around his doors and there were cops all around. So that's how I found out, by walking in, because I was going to go visit him. And it was before I was driving, and I'm aging myself. It was before cell phones, So I had to go find a phone to call somebody to come pick me up. So I called his girlfriend. She came pick me up, and then we had to go bail him out. So the two of us went and got him bailed out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I learned a lot. I've never had to use that knowledge again.
Thank God.
Yeah. But that's so, yeah. And then obviously, going to his trial. Yeah.
What was it like going through, like, was it a long trial? What was it like sitting through the trial and hearing all the shit come up? I mean, shit that you already knew, but then hearing about it come up in public and watching them basically get dragged through the dirt.
Yeah, no, it wasn't fun. Again, I love my dad, so I wanted to be there to support him. But none. And yeah, I mean, I'm thinking. I mean, I think one of the things about, you know, I don't really care what other people think. And I've always been that way. I don't care what
Yeah.
other people think. I think when I was in kindergarten, I didn't care what other people thought. I mean,
Yeah.
I got so bullied about my last name. I love my last name, but I didn't love it when I was a kid.
Right.
You know? And that shit didn't bother me. So it didn't bother me. I think what bothered me more than anything is I couldn't talk to anybody about it.
Right.
You know, my grandparents, my mom, nobody wanted to talk to me about it. It's like, I'm calling dad. He could be in the Ritz for all we know. You know,
Right.
Like, you know, that wasn't talked about.
Yeah.
So I think that did a lot of damage too, that I had to wait till I was in my 20s before I can actually say it out loud what happened.
Yeah. And, you know, you kind of understand why people don't want to talk about it. It's embarrassing or it's shameful or you know, whatever, all the crazy shit happens. I mean, especially after going to prison now, it's like, what the hell ever shit happens. There's nothing to hide now. But I can imagine being a kid trying to process some of that and not being able to talk about it to anyone in your family. It was just, if you got to be able to get that stuff out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I know Shannon said,
Yeah. She had a question.
yeah, I think at the time, I don't know about today, but when my dad went through it, he had a lot of support. I mean, he went to group meetings. He'd go get methadone. I would go sometimes, and then had a car at the time, so I could drive him. I think he obviously got the support he needed.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it's like today.
Yeah, that was, like you said, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's see. Mackenzie said there are a lot of things that happen after you get clean. Yes, there are. You think about it more than you ever want to years after. That is definitely true. Still have hard days, crying days, thinking about what happened to other people. Yeah. I feel you 100% on that, man. Like I've told this story before. The house I lived in when the cops ran in on me, ran a search warrant on my house, is right on the way. It's on the farm to market road I have to take to get home every day. So I drive past it twice a day. So I see that house twice a day. And not every time I drive past it, but probably 2 or 3 times a week I drive past it and I think, oh my God. You know, you just think about all the crazy stuff. And that's been years ago. I lived in that house in like 2005 or 6. So that's been almost 20 years ago that I lived there. And you still think about that crazy stuff, even years later.
Yeah.
The shit you put people through whenever you were on drugs. It's like, what was I thinking, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kylie, and I don't know about other states. TDC does a halfway okay job of it. There's still state-run programs. They're really good programs. I've been through some of them. But it's just like anything else. If you don't apply yourself and take to heart what they're teaching you, because the teachers are not free world, or the teachers are not state, they're not TDC employees. They are Wyndham School District employees, which falls under. All right, so in Texas, Wyndham is the school district for the whole state, all the prisons. It operates just like any other school district in Texas. It falls under all the education stuff. It is not run by TDCJ. It is run by Wyndham School District. It's run from the education side of the state. So they're free world teachers. They're not correctional staff. They're not paid by TDCJ. And so they really care and they really try. My hat's off to them, man, because, sometimes TDC would put people in those classes that didn't want to be in those classes. So they just gave the teachers pure hell. Even like GED classes, the state would make them get their GED. And if they don't go, they get in trouble. So they just go in there and it may take them 2 or 3 years to finally get in an attitude of they're going to learn. So it may take them 5 years to get their GED because they pissed off the first 2 or 3. But I agree with you and disagree with you to an extent because they do things, but I think they could do more. Wouldn't you say, Nathan?
Yeah, I would agree. And I understand the point that I agree with Kylie that anything that they do is very surface level.
Very surface level.
At the same time, you can't make other people do right. You can't make other people want to change. So yeah, what they're offering is surface level, but the people who really want it are going to apply it, and they're going to dig deeper, and they're going to do more. But, and I don't know about Texas or California or anywhere else, but in Colorado, all of those programs are 100% voluntary. So you can have a 10-year sentence and not do any of it and get out without doing anything. Or you could try to get into everything the whole time that you're in and, you know, get out with a bunch of stuff and a bunch of resources and, you know, people standing behind you. But I think that the bigger issue is not what the state offers you while you're in, but what they have available when you get out. And it's easy to put that on the state, but in reality, that's going to be on society as a whole. You know, opportunities are limited. Opportunities for housing, opportunities for jobs, opportunities for all kinds of things. They're just limited. And unless you really have drive and you really have fight in you, like, I know guys who have been out for 5 years and they haven't moved past working graveyards at a 7-Eleven because, you know, they're not willing to fight for more. They're not willing to go out and get it. And, you know, I work for a Fortune, I say this all the time, I work for a Fortune 50 company. I'm in consideration right now for a director level position. And the only reason that I've gotten to where I am is because I fight my ass off every fucking day to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And two, you know, like Darren said when he was on the show, it starts at the legislative level. Any kind of change that happens in the prisons, whatever state it is, because it's a state agency, it happens at the legislative level. So the only way that things are going to change is to let it happen in the Capitol. You know, Mark had a question. I don't know, man. It's I would say maybe, you know, like you can't have, I don't know. I don't know. I know I got, like, I really can't speak on finding a job because I got really lucky when I got out and came to work here, where I work now for STS Electronic Recycling. And I've been here for almost 6 years. So I haven't had really the same struggles that other people have had in the job hunting department. I've just seen it. And it seems to be spread across all crimes.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a felony, then that jacket is there regardless of what the crime is. And that's all people look at is a felony. You know, a lot of jobs, I think, Nathan, didn't you say whenever you were going to work for the company you work for now, it was crime specific or department specific to the crime or something like that whenever they were doing your background check?
Yeah, it was because I work for a healthcare company. So specifically, they were looking for different types of Medicare abuse, Medicaid abuse, any type of, you know, anything based on the healthcare industry. If your crime was related to that, but other than that, yeah, the rule for my company is 10 years from the conviction, and then they will take it on a case-by-case basis as long as the crime is not specific to the job being performed.
Yeah. And that makes sense. Like you can't fault them for that. You know, you have to, and we say this all the time. Yeah, it's hard for a felon to get a job, but at the same time, the employers have to use discretion. Yeah. You know, I mean, whether they want to give you a chance or not, that's a huge liability issue for them. To hire somebody that was doing Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud or insurance fraud or anything like that.
Yeah.
For sure. What else, Tanya?
I think my brain's kind of like where your brain is. I was like, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I was going to tell you a quick story. So we were having, I think I said it, we were having my granddaughter's first birthday, and my brother was there, myself, my mom, and my son-in-law's family was there. So I don't know, it was 12 of us, 14 of us, and something came up. Actually, it was my son-in-law's cousin had said something about her dad being in jail, and I went, well, we have something in common, because obviously two different families, sitting at the same table. And then my brother chimed in, and my mother is like, yeah, we're not going to go there. So you talk about ending the stigma, it's still alive in my family.
Yeah,
all these years later, it's like, yeah, we're not going to, it's a heavy topic. I'm going to change the subject. And like, mom.
Yeah. And it's funny how people deal with that differently. Different people deal with it differently.
Yeah.
And, even like I'm very open about having been, Nathan's very open about having been, we talk about it all the time. I talk about it at work not all the time, but it's not a secret at all.
Right.
But it shaped my life though too. Like I went through such a change while I was in there. I don't necessarily look at it as a bad experience. So to me, there's nothing to hide because I did go through so much change whenever I was locked up, and I'm proud of it. So, then my family's proud of the change I went through too. So they talk about it, but for different people, it's different, I can imagine that it was a weird, shameful, embarrassing situation for a family back then to have. It wasn't just like he got caught with a little bit in his pocket. He was a big time dude.
Yeah. Well, and some people do care what the appearances are, right? So I mean, I love my mom. Right. I don't want to. I'm not trashing my mom.
Sure, no, not at all.
But we're just polar opposites when it comes to we're the Leave It to Beaver family. Oops.
I mean, I see the same thing, within my family. Like, my parents are pretty close-lipped about it. Like, something might come up with, just speaking of other people outside the family, and my parents would be like, if Nathan wants to talk to you about it, he'll talk to you about it. But a few weeks ago, I was over at my brother's house watching a hockey game with a bunch of his friends, and the subject came up about, jobs and people wanting jobs and, the whole thing. And my brother just straight up in front of everyone was like, if people really want to go find work, they can. I mean, sometimes you really have to work. Just look at Nathan. Look at what he has.
Yeah. But it makes you feel good, though, when they're proud of what you've done, when they recognize it and they're proud of it. And Holly's talking about it was a secret before she outed Nate. I remember I remember whenever, it was on a live stream, Nathan.
It was on a live stream.
Because it was on my first one, I think. It was the first one. It was either that one or the Brodo Groupies one. I don't remember, but I went back and watched the whole thing not long ago. And Holly actually screen recorded it for me because I did not have it on a hard copy. I just had it on LinkedIn. So I went all the way back to find it. And
I think it was my first live ever.
Well, you showed your ankle monitor, and I didn't even know you had been.
This was leading up because remember, I first got my live, and we were preparing to do the 24-hour LinkedIn live.
Yeah,
the laughing emoji. But I did a little test live before that, and I ended up having Bernard Orozco and Dakota Wyatt came on and joined me.
Yep.
And that's what it was. Holly said I looked like a criminal because you remember my old office at my parents' house, how I had the shadows in the dark and the light from the screen.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, well, would this surprise you? And lifted my leg up to show my ankle monitor.
And I didn't have a clue that you had ever even been to prison.
Right.
Or on parole or anything like that. And that's how Nathan and I got to talking about it. And that was really probably the beginning of this show. That was because we instantly we had a bond. So then, naturally we just started talking and swapping stories and posting about it and all that kind of stuff. And that's
right. And then it was a few months later when I was like, hey, we need to actually do something about this and start.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually, this whole show was actually Nathan's idea. He was like, he DM'd me and he said, hey, because we had both done a few posts about being in prison and some of the stigmas and stuff like that. And it got a ton of support.
Right.
Both of us did. And he DM'd me and said, "Hey, we need to do something more with this." And we had both just started live streaming, and I was like, "Let's just create another show and talk about it."
Yep.
And that was over a year ago now. Yeah,
Cool.
Mackenzie. So when my home got, whenever they ran in on my house, I was not there. I mean, people called me, found out where I was. I got rid of everything that I had, went through my truck, cleaned it out before I ever went home. Then I went home and faced the music. They didn't arrest me right then. They arrested me later. I don't remember how it happened. I was pretty messed up. But for 2 weeks after that, I wouldn't sleep in my house. I went home and fed my dog and then left again. Like it's an absolute mind trip when they run in on your house. Even though if I'd have been there, it would have been so much worse. I know it really would have fucked me up, but it's a mind trip because you feel violated. I mean, they had every right to be there. I had drugs and, I was making pipe bombs and somebody snitched me out and told on me. But, yeah, it's a crazy feeling for sure whenever your house gets run in on. He has always been pretty much top notch. If we just get him to come back to LinkedIn.
There you go.
You hear that, Holly? Yeah. I've always been top notch. Despite what you say. Yeah. I give you shit. I talk to Holly like every day.
Well, this has been fun. I mean, we still have like 15 minutes to kill. Is there anything else you want to talk about or mention? I mean, we've covered a lot in 45 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking when you were saying about feeling violated when your house got raided. I know quite a few times when my dad's apartment would get raided, but he'd get tipped off. But they still came in and searched everything and just never searched the kids. But still, it was the most, even as a teenager, it was like having strangers, start going through, my overnight bag to my dad's place or whatever. It was, it happened all the time. Yeah, often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what's funny when they ran in on my house, they didn't find anything that was mine. They found, I didn't even know he had hid it. He had hid it in my closet, and it was I wasn't using a needle, but a buddy of mine was, and he had his rigs and stuff hanging up in a jacket in my closet. But there was stuff they didn't find, and I don't know how the hell they didn't find it, but thank God they didn't. It wasn't very much, but it still, it was enough. And I think it was 2 years later before I ever actually got arrested for that. A year later, I don't even remember. I don't even remember if they ever even charged me for that. I don't know. That time of my life's a little fuzzy.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know. Between a chemical alteration and no sleep. Well, this has been fun. I meant to. Where is he? I don't know if he's still here. Mark Sharp. Mark, are you still here? Mark's fixing to start a live stream show too. I forgot what it's called. Something by the Chubby Chef. It's going to be like a cooking show where he does all kinds of different things. He's going to live stream it. Yeah, I know. I feel kind of. He's fixing to start a live stream show too. I was going to shout him out and have him tell us about it real quick. Let's see. What do I got going on? Next Monday, I have Gabe Leal. He's going to be a guest on the show. Gabe's another live streamer, remote producer, content creator, and all that kind of stuff. So he's going to be a guest.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. He's kind of been off LinkedIn for a while. He got a promotion at his job, so it's kind of had him tied up a lot where he hadn't been able to do as much. But he's going to come hang out with me for a little bit. And he was actually probably one of the most instrumental people whenever I first decided I was going to start producing and helping me out. Like he answered countless questions, got on countless calls with me, just patient as he could be, showing me how to do stuff that I didn't know how to do, all the things. So owe a lot to where how far I've come in the producing and knowing what I know to Gabe. So it'd be cool to get to hang out with him.
Yeah. But I don't feel so bad asking you so many questions now.
No,
Payback.
don't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't feel bad at all. And then Tanya starts a week from tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central, 4 Pacific.
Yep. And you're
for
my
What's Your Story.
you're the first. Yep.
Yep.
You're the first.
I am the first. So yeah, well, this has been fun.
Yeah,
It's really cool. It's really cool that, you know, we like hearing all different stories and whether it affected somebody. We've had several people on here that, you know, their family or a family, their dad has been locked up when they were a kid, and told, you know, hear how it affected them and the stuff they went through and how hard it was and all that kind of stuff. So it's in all of them. Who have we had? It was Amanda Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Was our guest 2 weeks ago? Was her dad locked up? It was somebody recently.
I watched one about, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and she came on, and then her dad came on a little bit later.
Yeah.
That's who I was thinking of.
And
I'm looking
our
on my
stories
calendar.
are so different. You know, I mean, it's just
So different.
so different because the support, the talking about it. You know, I was so envious. Yeah.
Ashley Woods. Ashley Woods was her name.
Yep.
That's who I was thinking of. Ashley has been on, and then now Tanya. We may have had one or two more. We've had a lot of guests, and it's always cool. It's all not cool, but it's always interesting to hear how it affected different people different. But one thing that has been the common denominator is all of them supported their dad while they were in there, or, you know, didn't push him away or get bitter or angry. You know what I mean? I know that happens, but we've been fortunate enough that we've heard that we've had guests on that didn't. You know, Ashley was still very vocal about, you know, my dad's my hero. And then her dad came on too and was talking, and that was that was really cool. That was a really cool episode. So it was really cool to hear your side, and, you know, yeah, it affected you. Yeah, you needed an escape, but you and Dad were still tight like white on rice. You know.
Yep. During that time, not so much towards the end, but during that time, yes, very much.
Right.
And,
right.
And he supported me too. You know, like I said, I could call him and help me with my homework.
Yeah.
You know?
That's pretty cool.
And when I did, I mean, like, you know, I literally the day I graduated high school, I'm hopping on a plane to head towards Australia. You know, my dad supported me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think of I have two daughters. They're 24 and 26, and, you know, graduated, and my oldest is graduating in this December. You know, I have my 24-year-old graduated. I support them, but they did such a straight and narrow path.
Right.
Like, were they switched at birth? You know? So I guess it was like, you know, like I said, my dad supported me. He, you know, didn't try to get me to come home or my mom sent the police out after me, all that kind of stuff. That's why we left and went to Australia, and was because, you know, so, you know, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was very
I still think that's like one of the coolest stories ever. Hop on a boat the day you graduate and don't come back for 10 years.
Yeah. I came back once I turned 18, and I sailed here, sailed in the Caribbean. I had a boat in Florida, but I waited till I was 18.
Right.
I want to go back to Australia. Kareem's in Australia.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I mean, I did things unconventionally, and, you know, some people look down on it, and other people like you, that's really cool. And I think that's what brings a lot of flair and compassion to my coaching too, you know.
Yeah.
It has to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because you can understand the people that didn't start out as an executive or a business or a leader or starting a business, because you didn't either.
Yeah.
You started your life with an adventure.
Right. I know. And then we went to college literally with, you know, a baby.
Yeah.
I was in my. I had my. I was 34 and 36 when I had my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In college. That's awesome. I
Yep.
love it.
Yep.
All right, y'all. If y'all are not connected to Tanya, shoot her a connection request. Go follow her, support her live streams. They're going to be awesome. I can't wait to watch them. I know it's going to be good stuff
Thank
because
you.
I know it's going to be good conversations. I think that's it. Nathan, anything you want to share with us? Did you train DB Cooper?
No. Now you're really aging me. Thanks.
Yeah, I know, right? Nathan, was there anything you wanted to say?
The only thing I wanted to bring up, just to keep our audience apprised of what's been going on, I was not selected for the TEDx stage. So I did go through the audition. I got some great feedback from them as a result. They did say that I was shortlisted in case they need an alternate, but as of now, I did not make the TEDx stage, but there will be more opportunities to apply. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. And you know that's I mean, not to like rub salt in your wound, but that's not a very big consolation prize because like who doesn't show up for their TEDx talk if they've been selected? You know, like
I mean, you never know. Anything can happen to where someone's got to back out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Any kind of life emergency can come up, but
yeah.
You're right. I mean, I don't expect to be pulled in last minute, but yeah.
I mean, it is a consolation that at least you made the short list for alternate, but
right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Throw you on your own X stage. Holly says she'll bust some kneecaps.
Yeah. My brother just said bye.
Yeah, I saw him. Yep. Clark,
Yep.
Thanks for dropping in, man. I'll connect with you on LinkedIn and shoot you a DM. If I can't find you, I'll have Tanya introduce us in an email or something. But yeah, thanks for dropping in. Looking forward to chatting with you. All right, y'all. I think that's it. Appreciate all your support as always. We couldn't do it without you. Tanya, thank you for being here. It was cool to hear your story. Yeah. I enjoyed it. And we will see y'all next time.
Bye, everybody.